Hi, I'm Harold Bell, and this is the Legends of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. This is the eve of Super Bowl 50. So today I decided to travel back up to Philadelphia to talk to a young man that I have watched progress from being a producer to a talk show host, and he studied under the great Johnny Sample. And I'm talking about none other than my man Troy Wilmore. Good morning, Troy. How you doing?
Good morning, Harold. I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about my Eagles, man.
I heard that. I heard that. This is a big day. Like I said, this is the eve of the Super Bowl. And let's talk about the Super Bowl and the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. Let's start out talking about them. Troy, a lot of folks, of course, are picking the New England Patriots, but I mean, it's a no-brainer that the Eagles are right in this game because of their defense. Got one of the one of the greatest defensive teams in the National Football League this year. But everybody is putting the spotlight on the two quarterbacks. I think it's going to get down. Can the new England Patriots keep that ferocious defensive line and linebackers from getting to their top man, Tom Brady? What are your thoughts, Troy?
That's exactly right, Harold. I really believe that's where it's going to come down to in the trenches, right up front. The Eagles will bring 8 probably, maybe send some blitzes here and there. They'll change it up a little bit to shake up the Patriots' offensive line, really try to get to Tom Brady, put some pressure on him, let him make some mistakes, and the defensive backs are going to be ready to pick him off. The way Patrick Robinson did in the NFC Championship game against the Vikings. Malcolm Jenkins is a veteran. I mean, this team is ready, and I really believe that, Jim Schwartz and the defense are going to be ready to stop the Patriots offense.
Right. I think you're absolutely right there. But one of the things that happened leading up to the Super Bowl on tomorrow was you had several players come out on the Philadelphia Eagles saying that if they won, they were not going to. They will bypass the White House. Why would they come out with that now, Troy, and giving the the New England Patriots some bulletin board stuff to? Of course, everybody knows that the New England Patriots are big Donald Trump fans, from Tom Brady to the owner, Robert Kraft. Why wouldn't they wait? And I'm talking about Chris Long and Torrey Smith.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I really think they should have waited. They probably should have talked to their advisors, to ask them what happens if somebody asks me that question. And they could have said, well, we'll see what happens when the time comes and just let it go.
That's right. That's right. Troy, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this morning because I want to talk about two of the greatest defensive backs to ever participate in the Super Bowl, and they both wore number 24. And I'm talking about the great Johnny Sample and the great Willie Wood, both friends of mine who supported not only Inside Sports, but Kids in Trouble here in Washington, D.C. A lot of folks are not aware, man, that Johnny Sample had the distinction of beginning and ending his pro career with championship wins in two of the most famous games in professional football history. And I'm talking about winning an NFL championship with the Baltimore Colts and winning a world championship, of course, with the New York Jets, where Joe Namath predicted that they were going to beat these Baltimore Colts. That's what same thing that Torrey Smith and Chris Long should have done. They should have predicted, hey, we're going to beat the New England Patriots. As simple as that. And then there would have been no question. People would have thought about the great prediction of Joe Namath. But on that Joe Namath team, let's start out. On that Joe Namath team, Johnny Sample was co-captain with Joe Namath. And people don't understand the great impact that Johnny had on that team and the great role he played in winning that first championship, beating the New York Jets, would just set pro football on its ear. Tell us about that and what you know about it, Troy.
Yeah, it's funny. The story goes, I've heard over the years a lot of people that played with Johnny on that Super Bowl III championship team. And Johnny was telling me that, the guys, all the guys running around that entire week say they were going to be, guaranteed a victory against the Colts. And Joe Namath actually happened to be the one that the press took that quote from and ran with it. So I think the entire team was ready to go out and beat the Colts. And they did just that. Joe Namath didn't throw a touchdown pass in that game. He was still named the MVP. But that team was so loaded with talent, there was no reason for them not to beat the Colts.
Right, and and here again, the Jets were a great defensive team, and Johnny led. He was like the anchor of that defensive team. All the brilliant players followed his lead. A lot of people don't realize that Johnny was the first big-time trash talker in the NFL. He was the first big-time trash talker. In fact, the Colts was his first team, so he was really looking forward, man, to playing against the Baltimore Colts.
That's exactly right. That's one of the things that people don't understand. If they don't understand the history, they need to go back and read up on one of the greats to ever do it. And Johnny Sample's definitely in that conversation, one of the best defensive backs to ever play in the National Football League.
Yeah, and it's a shame that he is not in the NFL Hall of Fame. They blackballed him because he really, the people don't know really the reason why they blackballed him. The reason they really blackballed him because Johnny took the NFL to court and won. And why did he take him to the NFL? Why did he take the NFL to court? Because the NFL, when his dear friend, Big Daddy Liscombe, was found dead in Baltimore, they tried to say that Big Daddy died of an overdose. And Johnny disputed that all the way. He knew that Big Daddy didn't do drugs. In fact, Big Daddy was scared of needles. So, so Johnny said, man, I'm going to clear my brother's name. And he sued the NFL and won. And ever since that time, they have blackballed Johnny Sample for standing up and defending his friend and clearing his friend's name. We don't have ball players like that today, Troy.
Unfortunately, we don't, Harold. And that's one of the things that I've always respected about Johnny is that he was not scared about losing money or endorsements or fame or notoriety because of his conscience and doing what was right. And the story that I heard, like you said, about Big Daddy Gene Lipscomb, being scared of needles and didn't do drugs. I mean, the man was 6'9", 284 pounds. Like they say, strong as an ox. Could probably rip out a telephone pole straight from the ground and not, having to deal with drugs. And then to be found dead of a drug overdose, Johnny was right in clearing his good friend's name. And unfortunately, neither one of them are with us today, but I'm sure they're smiling down on us right now.
I'm telling you, man. And if you look right behind me, you see a picture of Johnny Sample, number 24, and Willie Wood, number 24. When you start talking about, Johnny being scared of losing endorsements, a lot of people also don't know the story. That after the Jets had beaten the Colts, of course, Joe Namath had the run of the town when it come to New York. And a lot of folks came to him with endorsements and stuff, and he stood up. He said, hey, I want my co-captain to get the same endorsements and the same money that I'm getting. Now that was unheard of, Troy, for a guy like Joe Namath to stand up for Johnny Sample and say he earned his way, And the ones the people that endorse Joe Namath or want to give him endorsement and sponsorship, they had to give it to Johnny Sample, man. That's another story. We don't know because the media just oppress our history, and Johnny Sample has a great history. Not only, as a professional football player, this man was probably one of the greatest all-around athletes to come out of the NFL.
That's correct. Yeah, it was all, sports star in football, ran track, played baseball, and tennis. As he got older and got retired from the NFL, went on to play tennis on the senior side and won many singles titles, played doubles. Just an all-around, just outstanding athlete. Yeah,
a lot of folks don't realize he was number one in singles as an amateur, man, in his age group. And also, Troy, hey, man, let's continue to talk about history folks don't know. Johnny went on the tour and was the first black guy to sit up in the chair, man, at the Australian Open, the big Open, U.S. Open up in New York. He was a top official and did not take any stuff from the players. He stood up. Johnny was a stand-up brother, man, and I wrote a piece in 2009. It was titled "A Dirty Football Player and a Stand-Up Brother," and that was really the big deal. Johnny, out of college, Maryland State, man, he became the first black player from a historical black college to play in the NFL All-Star game in Chicago. So that history there, Troy, it's a shame that we are not aware of it. And this being Black History Month, we need to celebrate Black history 365 days a year. And Johnny Sample needs to be a part of that conversation. That's all that I'm saying. And as we move from Johnny Sample to my dear friend Willie Wood, who grew up right here in Washington, D.C., people are now aware of that great history. You know, Willie is already in the Hall of Fame, but he had to struggle to get into the NFL Hall of Fame because they blackballed him for standing up to be a man. When it came to drugs being used by NFL players, he stood up as an assistant coach with the San Diego Chargers, man, and the NFL did not like that. But Willie Wood's background, another great all-around athlete, got an Armstrong High School here in Washington, D.C. Willie was one of the great quarterbacks, man. One of the great quarterbacks. And when he left here, he went to Compton Junior College because he had no major college offers. He ended up going to the University of Southern Cal, where he became the first black modern-day quarterback for the University of Southern Cal. And at graduation, man, he didn't have any offers in the NFL, and decided to become a walk-on for the great Green Bay Packers. And of course, we're talking about Vince Lombardi. He became a walk-on, and that became NFL history. Willie played in the first Super Bowl. In fact, I think maybe the first three Super Bowls. And Vince Lombardi called Willie Wood his coach on the field. And in 1989, Willie was finally inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame because I started a campaign with my partner back here, a guy by the name of Dick Heller, who was a sports columnist for the Washington Times. And we thought that it was a shame that Willie was not in the Hall of Fame. So we started a campaign, and Willie was finally inducted in 1989. And the first thing he did was to come on Inside Sports and thank me for helping him get into the NFL Hall of Fame. So when you start talking about and you're looking at 50 years of the Super Bowl, you got to know the history. And we don't know our history. And two of the greatest players to ever play in World Championship football wore number 24. And I'm talking about none other than our friend Johnny Sample and the great Willie Wood. Johnny is no longer with us, and Willie is in a nursing home here in Washington, D.C., suffering from dementia because of all those hard hits. Willie and Johnny were two of the greatest hitters in the NFL game. I remember Roy Jefferson. I don't know if you look, Troy, at that show that I sent you, that I had Roy Jefferson, Johnny Sample, Jim Brown, Sonny Hill, Willie Wood, and a young brother by the name of J.B. Brown on there. And
yeah, it was a classic. I really enjoyed all the clips.
Yeah, in fact, that was a great round table. And I remember Jim Brown asking Roy Jefferson, "Hey, Roy, tell us about Johnny. Was he really a dirty football player?" And Roy said, "Hey, man, if you caught the ball in the territory of Johnny Sample, you were gonna pay the price." I think that said it all. Well, Troy, I know you're getting ready for your own show, getting ready to go on the air in Philadelphia. I wanted to just take this time out, man, since this was Black History Month, and of course we going to celebrate Black History 365 days of the year, and we got to depend on young guys like you, Troy, picking the torch up and reminding people of our great Black history, Troy.
Well, absolutely, Harold. You know, if it's not for people like you and Johnny Sample and Sonny Hill and the rest of the great men that paved the way for us, there's no way I would be sitting here getting ready to do the show that I'm going to do at 10 o'clock. And so, you know, it takes a lot for me to definitely want to continue to shine the light on our history and teach the next generation. So, you know, without, you know, getting too emotional, it's an honor to have met you, work with you, talk to you, be a friend of yours, Johnny Sample, Sonny Hill, and all the guys. And so I stand on your shoulders and continue to blaze the next trail for the next generation. So I'm extremely humbled and honored.
Okay, Troy, go on and have a great show, and looking forward to talking to you after the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
That's right. I'm definitely going to do it tomorrow. Give this town what they justly deserve, their first Super Bowl championship.
Okay, have a great show, Troy.
All right, Harold. Thanks for the call.
All right. Okay, that was Troy Wilmore out of Philadelphia, sports talk show host. Came up under the great Johnny Sample, and then now he co-hosts his own show. And I know Johnny Sample is looking down, and he's very proud of the great history and the great job that Troy is now doing in Philadelphia, following in his footsteps. You know, as we look at Black History Month, like I said, it's got to be a time that we celebrate 365 days of the year. And that's what I have tried to do as a sports talk show host, a blogger, to bring people up to date on the great history. As you see those two brothers behind me, Johnny Sample and Willie Wood, two of the greatest to ever play the game. In fact, Vince Lombardi said that Willie Wood was his coach on the field. Well, that's going to be it for this segment of the Legends of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. And I just want you to remember that every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. Until next time, I'm Harold Bell, and you can color me gone.